Back in September, Russia was facing mounting losses as Ukraine's counterattack hit full throttle. Trying to stem the bleeding, Vladimir Putin announced a large-scale mobilization. In a follow-up statement, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu cited 300,000 troops as the call-up figure. The world immediately speculated whether this was the true amount, or another case of Russian deception. Ordinarily, countries have an incentive to over-represent these figures. If you can convince the other side that you are powerful and mean business, it helps in your efforts to obtain concessions at the bargaining table. In lines on maps, Russia wants to convince Ukraine that the expected outcome of war is here and not here. But Russia is different. Starting with Putin's original announcement of the war, seen here, the word war was not actually used. It was a special military operation, something that it continues to be from the Russian perspective. Put simply, Putin does not want to risk domestic political upheaval and the corresponding threat to his regime over a conflict in Ukraine. As a result, Ukraine, the West, and everyone else speculated that the number would be much larger than 300,000. After all, the front line is incredibly long, and Russia needs the manpower to prevent Ukraine from rapidly restoring its borders. In contrast, the official figure is intended to reduce turbulence in Moscow. Coming up with the real figure is hard to do. It's not as if Russia is freely giving away those statistics on the papers that Putin sees. However, a Russian-language news website has come up with an interesting way to back out an estimate of the true number. It's not 300,000. It's closer to 500,000 thus far. I've linked the English-language version of the article down below. If you find the topic interesting, you should definitely give it a read. Here, I am just going to explain the method and put it in context of the broader war. The key to the puzzle is weddings, of all things. Imagine you were a Russian man, and you just received your mobilization orders. For a long time, you have been dating the same woman, and it has to be a woman because this is Russia that we're talking about. You are in love, and you have been together a long time, but you still haven't gone down the aisle. The eve of deployment would be a very good time to do it. For one thing, if you never make it back, your widow is entitled to compensation. Failure to get married is therefore equivalent to leaving money on the table for your partner. Beyond that, marriage makes you family, and will facilitate her ability to visit you in the hospital and make decisions about your care on your behalf. We would therefore expect that increasing the deployment mandate would cause an increase in the number of marriages filed. Russian law actually does us one better, though. Ordinarily, you need to wait 1 month between filing your marriage license and actually getting married. Given the circumstances, Russia has permitted a very reasonable exception. If you receive a mobilization notice, you can get married on the same day. Unsurprisingly, this resulted in major spikes in marriage rates. Here is one region in Siberia where the jump was particularly noticeable. Overall, the data scientists gathered figures for 75 out of 85 regions. In total, there were about 31,000 excess marriages over the first month of mobilization. The interesting bit is that you can use information about those excess marriages to estimate the total number of people mobilized. Like with all estimates, this requires making some assumptions about what's happening in Russia. But let's take a leap together and see where it takes us. The Russian census registers those in relationships, but not married, under the fantastic term unregistered marital union. The 2021 census calculated that 1.8 million men between 18 and 49, the age range of the mobilization, were in such unions. However, the 2021 census was a mess, thanks COVID, and a demographer indicated that this undercounts the figure by about 200,000. That gives us 2 million potential mobilization-induced marriages. Equivalently, we then have 2 million unregistered married men. Of course, not all of them got married, but 31,000 of them suddenly did. That works out to be a mobilization rate of about 1.56%. Outside of extreme cases, the law does not make mobilization notices a function of marital status. Thus, applying that 1.56% to the total number of 18 to 49-year-old men in those regions takes us to 431,000. And using that same ratio for regions without data, we eventually get to 491,800, just shy of 500,000. We will get to some of the problems that come along with the raw estimates in a moment, but for now, I want to focus on the regional differences. The rates of excess marriages are much higher in the east. In contrast, Moscow and St. Petersburg are tiny. This is consistent with how the pre-mobilization forces were barely touching Russia's two political power centers. After all, if Putin can keep people in those cities this happy, it will be much more difficult to remove him from power. Crimea and Sevastopol were also small, even though they are right on top of the action. Ever since the annexation of the peninsula, Russia has wanted to appease Crimea and minimize discontent. That goes double for a time when Ukraine might be knocking at the door. Moving on from the regional differences, like any other estimate, the 500,000 figure rests on some assumptions that could make the true number larger or smaller. The biggest potential issue here is that excess marriages could be coming from people not previously in unregistered marital unions. Maybe someone marries their friend from high school just to make sure she is taken care of. Or two people that have been seemingly casually seeing each other take the plunge because push has come to shove. Perhaps, for example, only 1% of all people are getting mobilization notices. Thus, 2 of every 200 unregistered men are marrying, and 1 extra is coming in from the broader group of census single men. That would make us think that we have about 1.5% of the unregistered men receiving mobilization notices. We would then overestimate the number of mobilization notices coming from outside that population. That would get us down to about 330,000 troops, which is broadly consistent with Russia's official numbers. Of course, there is the opposite problem. Unregistered couples might use the mobilization notice as the impetus for finally getting around to breaking up. That would mean 1.5% of unregistered men are getting notices and getting married, but more are getting mobilized overall. On the other hand, a mobilization notice does not mean successful mobilization. It is possible someone gets the notice, gets married just to be safe, and then flees the country immediately afterward. In other words, the estimated 500,000 is capturing the notices, not the realized mobilizations, which may be smaller. Meanwhile, because the census was bad, we don't really know if the unregistered baseline is 2 million. If it is more, then we are overcounting mobilizations. If it is less, we are undercounting. Next, extrapolating to the regions without data is dangerous because we don't know whether they are the same or different, especially because we do know there is regional variation elsewhere. But perhaps the biggest caveat here is that this is the number of troops mobilized so far. If excess marriages continue through the end of October and into November, then the ultimate number mobilized is going to go well beyond 500,000. What do you think the true number of mobilized soldiers is? Let me know in the comments. If you want to know more about the war, you will love my book specifically on the causes of it. Check below for more information on that. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.